Good evening and welcome back. We're going to pick up where we left off with regard to the work session on the tiers map for SB 236.
All right, good evening, Planning Commission. Charles Rice, Program Manager with the Planning Division.
Good evening.
This is a continuation of your work session on the growth tiers associated with Senate Bill 236. The objectives for tonight's meeting, there are three. One is to review the specific items identified at the October 15th work session. Two, review the tier map submitted by the Balanced Growth Initiative. And three, begin constructing the Planning Commission's recommended tier map. So we'll take them in that order. At the October 15th work session, there were four issues that were specifically identified that the Planning Commission asked staff to take a closer look at and come back and report to you. One was with regard to Maryland Airport property, two, the Morgantown Power Plant property, three, the Clifton on the Potomac, and four, the Deferred Development District or RCD zone. So first we'll look at the Maryland Airport property. It's designated Tier 2 in staff's recommended map because it's planned for service but not currently served. And the area that staff designated as Tier 2 includes property beyond just the airport ownership, but all that contiguous property that's zoned BP, PEP, and IG. Again, just to reiterate what Tier 1 and Tier 2 call for, Tier 1 are areas that are served by public sewer, currently served, and mapped locally designated growth areas. Tier 2 are areas that are planned to be served by public sewer and or in the municipal growth element of a town. So just want to look at some points regarding the Maryland Airport property. This is the county sewer line map for that area. You can see the Maryland Airport property in the center. And you can see at the northern part where the sewer lines stop currently. And I believe that's around the J.C. Parks Elementary School. And then to the east is the main trunk line of the sewer line running down to the wastewater treatment plant. So this is just to illustrate that the property is not currently served, but is planned for service. The zoning map for the property, you can see the airport property is zoned for the most part light industrial, but our designation for Tier 2 includes the properties both north and south that are zoned business park and planned employment park. So this is the staff version of the tier designation for the Maryland Airport property and the surrounding property as Tier 2. All right, the second issue had to deal with the Morgantown Power Plant property. It is served by its own sewage treatment facility. Staff did not single out these areas for Tier 1 because they are commercial, industrial, or institutional and not intended for residential use. And there are other examples of that throughout the county, which include isolated school sites and a correctional facility. So we did not designate those isolated small areas as Tier 1 for those reasons. And again, the IH zone, which the Morgantown property is zoned, is not, residential subdivision is not permitted in that zone, and the septic bill deals with residential subdivision. Again, the zoning map for the Morgantown Power Plant shows that the property is zoned IH. And the tier map designation shows it as Tier 4 and not called out as an isolated served property. The third issue dealt with Clifton on the Potomac. It is served by a public sewer system. Staff mapped the parcels north of US 301 up to and including all the land zoned RM as Tier 1. There are no other surrounding areas currently planned for public sewer, thus not meeting the requirement for a Tier 2 designation. Again, the zoning map for that area shows Clifton on the Potomac and the various zones north of 301 that the staff map has all shown as
Charles, can I ask a question?
Tier 1, yes.
Does that include the the areas included in the amended water and sewer plan for Clifton?
I believe so, but I'm going to defer to someone from
Because
the
the
RIM
county
division that
commissioners
knows more about that.
The the County Commissioners passed Resolution 2010-89, which I think amended the water and sewer plan to include certain areas of Clifton, and I'm not sure whether they're included in this tier map or not.
The amendments that you're referring to, I believe, were text amendments and not map amendments. And the areas, however, there was discussion of Clifton on the Potomac and lots the county owned a couple years ago, and those lots were already the proper category. And they are included in the yellow that you see there, and they're also included in the Tier 1 designation that's on the tier map as proposed.
So all the area that's in the current water and sewer plan for Clifton are designated in the appropriate tier?
Yes. Specifically to Clifton,
Okay.
as you're asking.
Okay, and then the fourth issue had to do with the deferred development district, which was discussed quite a bit at the last meeting. Staff mapped the RCD zone as Tier 4 with the expectation that areas would be remapped as Tier 2 with future comprehensive plans as needed. There's no planned sewer service through the 2012 comprehensive planning horizon, and no planned capital improvement projects to install infrastructure necessary to provide sewer service through the 2012 comprehensive planning horizon. Also, no plan to change the 1 unit per 10 acre density through the 2012 comprehensive planning horizon. And again, this is deferred development district and the tier designation that staff proposed. Well, the second objective for tonight's meeting was to review the tier map submitted by the Balanced Growth Initiative. You have that map in your package and was on the Planning Commission's board docs. We're going to do that, do the evaluation by tier. So we'll start with Tier 1, which, as you know, are areas that are served by public sewer systems and map locally designated growth areas, or a municipal corporation that is a priority funding area that is served by public sewer systems. Staff found the map to be mostly consistent with Senate Bill 236 except for one provision, and that is the map includes all the land within the town boundaries as Tier 1, and there are some areas within the town boundaries that are not served by public sewer, and the bill describes these areas as Tier 2. So, for example, this is the outline of the town of La Plata boundaries. The dark black line outlines the boundaries. Those areas that are in red or designated Tier 1 are currently served, but the remainder that are yellow or Tier 2 are not served but plan to be served. So that's the difference between the staff proposed map and the Balanced Growth Initiative map.
Can we ask a question?
Sure.
If you have a question, please.
Those boundary areas there that are in Tier 2, are they never going to be served by sewage, or they're not served at this time?
They're not served at this time, but they are planned to be served, which is why we've designated them as Tier 2, which is what the legislation calls for.
Would that change that wouldn't change the acres then if you're planning to put those into more than 19,908 acres? Is there going to be more than that? I don't understand. If this is what you're saying is not involved at this time, when will it be involved? And if it ever was, would that 19,908 acres be increased?
Yes, as the town would plan to bring those areas online and be served, then those Tier 2 areas would then become served and then would meet the Tier 1 definition.
Could they meet another tier if it is planned in sometime in the near future? Do we have to, are we only looking at for the next 6 years, or are we looking beyond 6 years?
We're looking at the current planning horizon. When we met with the town of La Plata in developing these maps, they indicated that the areas that we had designated as Tier 2 were accurate as far as their plans go at this time.
I guess what my question was is, there is anticipation of branching into other areas with the sewage in the future?
Over time, yes.
Okay.
Okay, with regards to Tier 2, Tier 2 are areas that are planned to be served by public sewer systems and in the municipal growth element or map designated growth areas. There's one major difference between the balanced growth initiative map and the county's proposed map, and that is with regard to the deferred development district. And again, this has been already quite a bit of conversation between Planning Commission and staff about this, so you understand the difference. Again, the county staff designates it as Tier 4 because there's no plan to serve that area within the current planning horizon. The Balanced Growth Initiative map designates it as Tier 2 because it's planned to be served at some time in the future. The second issue is that the Balanced Growth Initiative map designates the rural villages, which are not planned to be served by public sewer, as Tier 2. So we'll look at, you're familiar with the Deferred Development District as it's mapped currently by the staff's proposed map. Just to point out the issue with the rural villages, this is the area focusing on Cobb Neck, and you see 3 rural villages, Mount Victoria, Tompkinsville, and Issue, and obviously there's no plans in the county's planning horizons to have these areas served by public sewer, so it doesn't meet the definition for a Tier 2 designation, and hence the staff's Tier 3 designation for those areas. With regard to Tier 3, they are areas not planned for sewer service and not dominated by agricultural or forest land, are not planned or zoned by local jurisdiction for land, agriculture, or resource protection, preservation, or conservation, and also are one of the following: a municipal corporation not served by a public sewer system, the rural villages as outlined in the state finance and procurement article, 3 map locally designated growth areas, or 4 areas planned and zoned for large lot and rural development. The Balanced Growth Initiative map appears inconsistent with the bill as it maps large areas zoned for agriculture conservation that are also dominated by agricultural and forest resources as Tier 3 instead of Tier 4. So for example, if you look at, I believe this is also an area in the Cobb Neck region, shows the Chesapeake Bay critical area along the waterfront there, and then to the south, the area zone agriculture conservation. The Balanced Growth Initiative map has the critical area boundary designated as Tier 4, and then some other existing protected land within that view, but omits the areas dominated by agricultural and forest land, which is shown there and is also zoned in that category. And then switching and looking at another area, for example, the Nanjemoy Peninsula, you see in the dark green, the Balanced Growth Initiative proposed Tier 4, but also surrounded by areas dominated by forest land and zone agricultural conservation. And related on the flip side, when you look at the Tier 4 criteria, there are areas that are not planned for sewer service and are areas planned and zoned by the local jurisdiction for land and agricultural resource protection and conservation. The areas dominated by agricultural lands, forest lands, or other natural areas, or more specifically, the rural legacy area, priority preservation areas, or areas subject to essentially existing conservation easements. The Balanced Growth Initiative map appears inconsistent with the bill because it omits from Tier 4 large areas that meet criterion 1 and 2 above. So again, just looking at those same series of maps, the areas dominated by agricultural and forest and zone for agricultural conservation are omitted from the Tier 4 designation, essentially using those same examples. So again, tonight's objective, I think primarily is to begin constructing the Planning Commission's recommended tier map, and that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, be happy to entertain those.
Questions or comments for staff?
I have